What up, girl?
This is 10 Minutes with Alex Smith, looking back on the Bill Clinton administration. In 1992, Bill Clinton won the president election. The main nominees for this election were Democrat Bill Clinton and Republican incumbent George H.W. Bush. The third party candidate that the public needed to keep their eye on was billionaire Ross Perot. Clinton pulled out a victory in this election. It ended with Clinton 43% of the votes, Bush 38% of the votes, and Perot 19% of the votes. Clinton and his vice president Al Gore managed to attract Southern voters as planned, and that helped them win. But what elements helped Clinton win this important election? For one, this election was the first election introducing TV commercials. All three candidates seemed to gain an edge by this. Perot wanted to gain more votes by advertising his campaign on TV. Clinton and Bush followed Perot's lead, using TV to voice their campaigns across America. Bill also tried to gain the support of younger voters by making appearances on MTV and the Oprah Winfrey Show. The debates of this election were very public, all of them being televised.
The restriction on gun control is well implemented. The Brady Bill requires you have a criminal background check before you receive a licensed firearm. This law requires that you have up to 5 business days passed between the time an individual seeks to buy a handgun and the time that the purchase transpires. During those 5 days, local law enforcement officials must conduct a reasonable background check of the applicant. Pushing Bill to campaign upon healthcare, and to her advantage she did. Everyone knows his first administration's goal was to provide universal healthcare for all Americans. In September, Bill Clinton made a speech about his healthcare plans. He stated that his new plan would force all employers to supply their workers with health insurance. This healthcare bill has been pulled as not favorable. She helped her husband a great deal in the election. She thought of the slogan, "Buy one, get one free." She thought more voters in the 1992 election would like that she was working for her husband and would create more good for the country as opposed to bad. However, most polls have shown people didn't support her being involved in his campaign. She was just overriding her position. She even set up her own staff to assist her husband's campaign, which led to her more scrutiny. According to Bill Clinton, she in fact did have quite an impact on his 1992 campaign when she convinced Bill to deal with healthcare issues. The North American Free Trade Agreement has been discussed in the debate for the 1992 election. Clinton had proposed an agreement between Mexico, Canada, and the United States that would get rid of all tariffs on the continent of North America. This was hoped to allow countries to more easily trade. Some provisions on NAFTA are designed to give U.S. and Canadian companies greater access to Mexican markets in banking, insurance, advertising, telecommunications, and trucking. This was put into place January 1st, 1994.
Jean Bertrand Aristide was elected president of Haiti just over 2 years ago. Even though his own government voted, they weren't too fond of him. He won by 67%. With respect, he was also a Roman Catholic priest. He was the first democratically elected president. Just a couple of months ago, he formally requested to be relieved of his priestly duties. In consideration, he was previously expelled by the Salesians in late 1988. And then the UN persuaded Aristide and the Cedras to meet near New York to make an agreement that would allow Aristide to return to power for the Haitian presidency for the final 27 months of his single, non-renewable term, and to provide amnesty or group pardon for the military. We haven't heard a lot about Cedras since September of 1991, when he overthrew the President Aristide and forced him into exile. In the Republic of Bosnia-Herzegovina, conflict between 3 groups, the Serbs, Croatians, and Muslims, had broken out, resulting in a genocide committed by the Serbs against the Muslims in Bosnia. Bosnia is one of the several small countries that emerged from the breakup of Yugoslavia. Yugoslavia consists of Serbs, Croatians, and ethnic Albanians. In April of 1992, the U.S. and European community chose to recognize the independence of Bosnia, a mostly Muslim country where the Serb minority made up of 32% of the population.
Somalians reached 500,000 citizens in the fall of 1992. This was mostly caused by famine and droughts that left many Somalians short of food. Operation where American troops were sent into Somalia in an attempt to expand peacekeeping after 500,000 Somalians died from the famine in 1992. The main goal for American troops was to provide protection for humanitarian assistance and other peace enforcement operations. June 1993. On October 3rd and 4th, a battle was going on, now referred to as the Battle of Mogadishu, which was a battle that was part of the Operation Gothic Serpent. Somalia, by forces of the United States supported by UNOSOM II, against Somalia militia fighters loyal to warlord Mohammed Farah Aidid with support from armed civilian fighters. The warring fractions imposed by Somalians have been very inhumane.
Another report about Somalia. Troops were shot down out of the sky by Somalia militants using RPGs, shot down a helicopter, also known as a Black Hawk, which made the movie Black Hawk Down famous. There was another election that ended in a Bill Clinton win. Receiving 49.2% of the votes, he beat Republican Bob Dole, who received 40.7% of the votes, and independent Ross Perot, who received only 8% of the votes. The candidates debated popular issues like a flat tax rate and tax cuts, a return to supply-side economic policies. Clinton promised reforms in education, taxation, and healthcare. Clinton's questioning of voters if they were better off than they were 4 years ago. And the answer was yes, because a strong economy also got him reelected. First term, he had many successes. He signed the Family and Medical Leave Act of 1993, which allowed large employers to let employees take unpaid leave for pregnancy and other serious medical conditions. In addition, he implemented the controversial Don't Ask, Don't Tell policy, which allowed gays into the military if they didn't reveal their sexuality. Clinton signed the North American Free Trade Agreement into law in 1994. He signed the Brady Bill into law in 1993, which imposed a 5-day waiting period on handheld guns purchases. The Omnibus Budget Reconciliation Act of 1993, 1994 Crime Bill expanded the death penalty for drug kingpins, murderers of federal law enforcement officers, and nearly 60 additional categories of violent felons. Clinton had many successes in his first term, and these numerous successes helped him easily win a